Thank you, Ms. Clennon. And we have, as we typically do, an annual report on our student achievement results. And I'm grateful that Dr. Fettigan and many of our instructional supervisors are with us this evening to help you bring some understanding around the numbers this year. So Dr. Fettigan.
Okay, thank you, Dr. Kataya. Good evening, everyone. Just to remind everybody, in the first row we have Lisa Swanson. She's our instructional supervisor for STEM. Behind her, I'm going to do it by department, is Dr. Nobley, her counterpart, the elementary pre-K 5. Next to Mrs. Swanson is Mr. Smith, our instructional supervisor for student development and wellness, and behind him is his 612 counterpart, Christiane Gillespie. And between Dr. Gillespie and Dr. Nobley is Sarah Harris, our instructional supervisor for humanities. We have a few instructional supervisors who are students themselves tonight and excused for their studies, but we've obviously all collaborate as a team. We study and review scores together and discuss our strategy as a teaching and learning department in response to the scores. So we'll be happy as a team if there are any questions to answer after my comments tonight. So as Dr. Kataya indicated, this is an annual report to share our student achievement data. And just as a reminder for the board, these are the test scores we'll talk specifically about for which standardized assessments, but that our students took last year, right, in the 21-22 school year. And we have an opportunity annually to review these scores. As a reminder to everybody, the scores are not distributed to the public until after the students have already moved on to the next grade level. Right, so just to bring some context to, the students take these assessments in the spring, the scores come out very late summer, and then typically families and students have access to the scores in the fall. Actually, we're just about to send those out to students and families next week. So we always like to bring our review of the scores in the greater context. This will not surprise you, thank you so much. Will not surprise you, this was the news flash after the state announced that the scores would be released after they had been embargoed. They let all school districts know in the news flash that our scores in the state of Connecticut throughout are still lagging behind pre-pandemic levels. So what they're showing is the scores across all subgroups, inclusive of students who receive special education services, our ML learners, and those without identified needs, are still performing at scores lower than the pre-pandemic levels. The good news is for us, and you'll see in some of our slides that I'll show in just a moment, we've remained about steady from where we were. There wasn't a continued decline really in any area from our first year in the pandemic. But this is an important message. We always do like to look at keeping our standardized assessment scores in the context of the greater picture of our work in Milford Public Schools. Right, so we recognize that these scores help us do some things, but they certainly have some limitations. So what do we really use the scores for? Again, because they're such lagging indicators, we get the scores so late. Kids have already moved on to the next grade. They're already with a new teacher or a new set of teachers if they're in middle school and high school. These scores help us as a school system really think about our big picture systemic work. So we'll help to point to areas of our curriculum maybe that we need to be paying attention to, revising or rewriting. They help show overarching skills that we might want to approach in a different way through our teaching and learning models. But we do know that there are some limitations. So even throughout the pandemic, right, and prior, we were cautioned with you really have to look critically at the scores and think about how much weight you put into one single assessment. That you really have to be thinking about what are other measures, what are the other pieces of information that you could use to really evaluate student achievement and performance, school and school system achievement and performance. We also know that tests are imprecise, right? They're really a snapshot, a moment in time for our learners. And I think all of us can agree that we'd like to make sure that we're all, within our performance, within our work, we're all evaluated more than just a number on one singular day of performance. So we certainly want to extend that to our young people as well. There could be some imprecision, right, with the standardized test scores. So it's, again, important to think about, as has been our practice in Milford Public Schools, to really put these tests in the context of the greater picture of our work. These tests provide just partial evidence about what our students are doing in a given moment in time. We've also been focusing in Milford Public Schools for quite some time now on really these priority areas. And through these areas, we're going to continue to explore leading indicators, right, that will predict student outcomes. And those are namely the high quality curriculum that we're drafting and writing, our district model for high quality instruction, how we implement curriculum, how we bring student learning experiences to all of our students in our 14 sites, how we think about leveraging relationships in our work, and how we're really driving toward the vision of the learner. So we can recognize that we have to, Milford Public Schools will never be a system, I'm sure Dr. Nataya agrees with what I'm about to say, that teaches to a test. We understand there is a much bigger picture of our work that we are required to bring to the learners in every classroom every day in Milford Public Schools, that we're really driving toward our vision of the learner, competencies around scholarship, personal development, citizenship, and creativity and innovation. We know that any finite knowledge or skill that might be presented on a test could be transitory, right? So we're going to talk a little bit later on in this presentation about how we're really thinking about what dispositions our kids need to be successful for college and career as they move through Milford Public Schools and onto their next steps when they leave us. So for returning board members, this is going to be a review for anybody new and anybody watching at home. This might be new information, but just a quick reminder about what is SBA. SBA is the Smarter Balanced assessment that our students take in the spring. It's implemented in person. Obviously, during the pandemic, there was a time where we had our students that were engaging as remote learners. Even when we came back this past year, every student took an online computer adaptive test. There's no longer pencil, fill in the bubble. Everybody is taking an online computer adaptive test. And what that means is every student, as they're taking the test, the test is responsive to his or her responses. Students have an achievement score of level 1 through 4, 4 being the highest score a student can have. And it's offered in English language arts and mathematics. So really our humanities, English language arts, STEM, mathematics. And individual score reports, again, are distributed about a week from now. Students in 11th grade take the SAT, and that's the same but expanded version that you all may remember from your younger years. This is a College Board entrance exam. Our students actually, some students take the SAT more than one opportunity, as you may know, but we have an official SAT school day. And that's when we have an opportunity throughout the state of Connecticut to offer the standardized assessment to our 11th graders. This has traditionally been a paper and pencil test. Our students take this in English language arts and mathematics. Same kind of achievement levels 1 through 4, and it's grounded in literacy through the content areas. So on to looking at our scores. So again, the Smarter Balanced assessment is offered to students elementary and middle school beginning in grade 3. What you'll notice here is that we did not administer the assessment in 2020, as we all know, because of the COVID-19 pandemic. But if we're taking a look at our scores, we can see the dip from 2019 pre-pandemic to the scores after we had to close schools, go to remote instruction. And obviously we understand not only from the state's announcement that there's a continued effect of the pandemic, and we expect that that will be not only in our industry, in public school education and many others, a continued effect for years to come. It's going to take some time to really work through that experience. If you look here though, the results from 2021 and 2022 were fairly consistent. It's pretty negligible. There wasn't any more of a significant drop from this year to the past year in 2021. Although, as the state announced, definitely lagging the pre-pandemic scores in Milford Public Schools, just like our neighbors throughout the state. If we think about the middle school, there's less of a drop from the pre-pandemic, but fairly consistent in our performance all the way across. Not really any statistical difference there in grades 6, 7, and 8 for students who are performing at or above goal. Grade 11, this is again where we'll see Not a significant difference in the 2021 to this past year's scores, but still a slight drop from 18-19 pre-pandemic scores. And again, the scores that are shared with you tonight are really high-level scores. They're inclusive of every learner in Milford Public Schools that takes the standardized assessment. Our ML population, our students who receive special education services, all students unless they're taking an alternate exam. So this really is a good indicator of just general performance for our students on just this one assessment. Something that we want to draw your attention to that was new for us, and certainly Ms. Harris, Mrs. Brewer, to go by the married names now, I'm slow to remember those, I'm sure may talk with us a little bit more if the board has any questions. This was new for us this past year. So remember, we have afforded our students the opportunity to earn a Connecticut seal of biliteracy. So for the first time ever this past spring, we had a very large number of students that were able to pass the exam or the requirements and criteria to earn the seal of biliteracy. So for our students who speak Spanish, they could do so because, for example, we offer AP course in Spanish. You'll notice there are some languages here that we don't at this point, and notice I'm saying at this point in time because we hope that this will change. Currently, we don't offer some of these other languages, right? But you know that we're going to signal that we want to continue to grow our world language offerings in Milford Public Schools. These students who, for example, speak Arabic or Russian, they may speak those languages at home or have had other opportunities to be proficient or to be bilingual in those other languages, and so they're able to take a different form, a different assessment form, to earn the Connecticut Seal of Biliteracy. You can see that during this past year we did have 26 students who indicated an interest in having the Connecticut Seal of Biliteracy affixed to their diploma. So this is a significant accomplishment for those learners and certainly for our school system. And we anticipate that this time next year you will see additional languages presented here or represented here of our students that we recognize as bilingual and celebrating the gifts and strengths they have in language. So we're going to code switch over to mathematics. So for mathematics, again, these are very high level global scores for all of our learners in these grades who took the mathematics SBA, who performed at or above grade level. We recognize in looking at these scores, again, they lag pre-pandemic achievement levels. We also know that during the pandemic, curriculum was rewritten. And Dr. Katai and I were speaking earlier today about just in general, when we think about change over time and improvement science, you know, you may be aware that you study something, you research, you implement, and it takes some time to see the growth or the effect of that implementation or change. So, you know, while we can see again a dip from pre-pandemic, we also know that sometimes when you implement something new, there could even be something like an implementation dip. Takes a little bit of time to recover when you're trying something new. We're supporting our staff with significant professional learning, and we do anticipate with a very strong standards-aligned curriculum to see increases in these scores through the professional learning that we're going to be offering in the year ahead. If you look at our middle school scores, once again, our middle school scores, we've been piloting, as you know, new curriculum this year. I know that Mrs. Swanson may want to be talking with you about that if you have any questions at the end of this sharing. But once again, the scores from 2021 and 2022 are fairly consistent from one year to the next. Again, lagging slightly behind the pre-pandemic scores, but not a huge dip from last year to this year, which is hopeful. And again, our students at the SAT, taking SAT for math in grade 11, were actually fairly consistent to our pre-pandemic scores there, and see that there is some room for improvement. And we are going to, again, continue to explore how our new revised curriculum, once fully implemented, can support that. Switching to science. So science is administered, the science exam is administered through the NGSS. Remember, the NGSS stands for Next Generation Science Standards. You may recall that there's a big shift in how those standards are taught and what they expect of students. There's a greater focus on inquiry, hands-on learning, and as we all know, the last, since March of 2020, there have been very limited opportunities for our students to engage in those kinds of prolonged phenomena, inquiry-based learning experiences. So while this score is also, these scores are rated on levels 1 through 4, we understand that our students have had limited experience since the pandemic with science content and practices. And we're very happy to have our science labs open again to support this kind of hands-on learning. So you can see here again the scores lagging just slightly from pre-pandemic levels, kind of a negligible change over 21 to 2022 for our students in grades 5, 8, and 11 who take this exam. So as you know, it's been our practice in Milford Public Schools to look at a variety of measures, even when we're talking about the standardized measures that are available to our students. You might remember that the AP exam, or the Advanced Placement Exam, is a program run through College Board, who again are the makers of the SAT. And this allows our students to take a rigorous college or university level course while they're in high school, also allowing them to earn college credit if they achieve a certain score on the exam. We're very fortunate in Milford that not only do we offer a wide variety and a large number of AP courses, but that something that we're really very proud of, and Dr. Patai and I recently were speaking with the teaching and learning team about, is we have a very open access to our AP courses in Milford Public Schools. So there are not a lot of gateway or prerequisite standards and experiences that our students have to take these courses, and it's because we believe that it's very important, more so than the test and the score on a test, for all students to have the experience of taking rigorous courses like this while they're here with us, while they have the supportive nature and structure that our high school teachers can provide to them and their peers. So you'll see there are a variety of courses across the humanities and STEM departments, and also fine arts as well. So why, again, you may have heard, why is it important for our students, our learners, to score a 3 or higher on these exams? And that's quite simply because that is a cost savings to the student's family for when they enter college and university. So if students score a 3 or higher on any AP examination, with the exception of UConn, they're able to have credit for those courses when they get to the college level or university level. So on this slide, we can see the percent of our students scoring a 3 or higher across the exams. And again, that's all exams taken across all of those subject areas. Our students in Milford Public Schools have access to AP exams really throughout their 10th, 11th, and 12th grade years in Milford Public Schools. And you can see here, looking at the data that's represented on this slide, that we're again fairly close to our pre-pandemic level, with the exception we were really right, I guess, around the time when the pandemic hit, really on an upswing there, and going to strive to continue to reach those high scores, while also maintaining that continued open access. In addition to AP, we're very grateful that in Milford Public Schools we offer a variety of ECE, or early college experiences, through UConn. You can see here there are STEM and humanities courses offered. And in particular, we'd like to draw your attention to the very last listed. It's If You Love It, Teach It. And so that is a course that for the very first time is being offered. It's being offered not only in Milford, but really for districts throughout the state who are interested in exploring this. And it's for our students who think they might have an interest in learning how to be an educator and going into our very own profession. And certainly, post-pandemic, we're understanding how critical it will be to support the next generation of educators. So that is being offered this very year to our students. We have a number of university level courses that are offered. You can see here we offer early childhood ed courses. We offer Principles of Financial Accounting. We offer the ECE Chem class, calculus, multiple calculus courses, U.S. history, and environmental science. We have a nice distribution of students who are really taking advantage of those opportunities while they're with us. You hear about when we share the next generation accountability information with the Board of Education in the spring. You also hear a little bit about our graduation rate. But for this past year, we have obviously the data for you. We had out of our 12th grade students enrolled in Milford Public Schools, 99.75% of them graduate, inclusive of 5 of our students who received certificates of completion but are continuing on with us for their programming through the age of 22. Who receive special education services. So they're on with us and having very meaningful experiences here with us in Milford Public Schools and within our community. In this class, and I know many of you were at graduation, you heard about the very impressive volunteerism of our students. We had 80 graduates with distinction, and those are the students that really had probably 150 to 600 hours of community service. Really impressive young people in such a different variety of experiences from which we all recognize they learned and grew so much outside of the classroom. We had 166 students graduate with honors. So this pie chart really is meant to show you our Milford Public School students are selecting very different post-secondary paths than maybe what we would have seen here in the 90s or even a few years ago. And something that Dr. Utai and the teaching and learning team, and especially our secondary high school principals are talking about now, is this pie chart is going to intentionally look different this time next year and in the years to come. It used to be that we would only measure the success of a school system by the number or percent of students going on to a 4-year college immediately. And we recognize in 2022, it's incumbent upon us to prepare our students for entrance into 2- and 4-year colleges, but also to prepare for entrance immediately into the workforce with certifications. I was saying just yesterday, I happened to be in Target in the snack aisle. I should have probably been in the cleaning aisle, but I was in the snack aisle. And with my kids, and I ran into a student of mine from Calf Penn many years ago, a family of 3, and the middle one is now a senior, and she was telling me about her older brother who just finished with us at Foreign High School. And she said that he actually has selected to go immediately into his career, and he's waiting on the fire department test and has just become an EMT. So it reminds me, right, that we have students, many students, who know what they want to do when they're with us, especially in grades probably 9 through 12. I think some of them know even sooner. And it really is incumbent upon us to open those pathways to our learners and to provide the experiences where, whether it's in public service or through manufacturing, engineering, all of these other experiences and pathways for our kids that they should be able to just sample, especially when we're thinking about grades 6 through 12. Another very important reason for us to continue to explore, expand, and enhance the pathways that we have. We will, of course, though, keep our eye on those students who are looking to enter into 4-year colleges. I know, again, from graduation, from other communications that we've shared, the very impressive listing of colleges and universities that our Milford Public Schools students have been accepted to and enrolled in. Many of our students accepted into these top-tier colleges and universities, many of our students into multiple in the same application year, same individual students. So you can see there's a wide variety of students that are going to, again, top-tier, Ivy League, very impressive colleges and universities. And so we want to make sure that we're preparing these pathways for all of our learners. So again, I think I was just, my remarks right before that, closer look at the data, were really around the intentionality to ensure that this pie chart is going to look different. And it's because really we're focusing on opening up pathways, multiple pathways for all of our learners in Milford Public Schools. The goal is not just to have students getting into a 4-year college and university, but to have a number of opportunities available. So here we're going to switch over to fine and performing arts. And there is a lot of good news to share here. And I agree with Dr. Gutaya when parents and families are thinking about the quality of the school system and the experiences that young people could and should have beyond STEM and humanities, thinking about the environment that we provide for our young learners to be creative, recognizing themselves as musicians and artists. We had this year our middle school regionals, 12 students enter for band, 2 for orchestra, and you see the numbers for our kids who stay on into the high school. We had 9 band students and 18 respectively for band and choir that attended regionals, and we had a number of our students earn all state honors. I have a friend who is in another school system who could not believe that we actually had 2 students. She was saying in her school system, her student was the first ever to actually reach for their school district the recognition of a national scholar for the NAFME organization. We actually had 2 in 1 year in Milford Public Schools, and I might add, 1 from each of our high schools, 1 from foreign and 1 for law. This is a very prestigious recognition. These 2 students, 1 from foreign and 1 from law, will have the opportunity to go to Maryland in November, the first week of November, where they will be with a very elite group of musicians from across the nation and music educators based on their performance during the regional performances. We have a number of students that have received visual arts awards and recognitions through AP Studio Art and Beyond, and you'll be able to see in the next few slides a number of their pieces for our students. This is student Abigail from Jonathan Law High School. She's an 11th grader last year. Our students have the opportunity to be recognized through the Milford Arts Council, to earn a number of scholarships, for example, the G.H. Jones Scholarship and the Hartford Art School Artist Promise Scholarship. Again, we have a number of students that are earning accolades through their submission through AP Art Studio. Here are just a few examples of our AP Art Studio submissions for the past year. Really talented kids. So Ms. Boynton kind of hinted at this in her earlier question, like, so here are the scores, and so what do you do about it? Like, what's the reaction? And so again, the teaching and learning team does take a careful look at the scores. We look at cohort data, we look at year over year, like apples to apples, how are kids doing as they move through, and then just year over year data within a grade level. And so I won't read all of these to you, but we have recognized a number of priority areas for humanities across literacy, social studies, and world language. Just a few highlights. We obviously continue with our curriculum review and revision. This year primarily focusing on those grades 9 through 12. Thinking again about how to ensure high quality instruction where we have recently revised curriculum at the elementary level. We're continuing to build classroom libraries and access to varied text for our kids. In social studies, we are working on a curriculum review and revision with alignment to the frameworks. And in world language, something we're very eager and excited about, and you'll be hearing, I'm sure, in the months ahead about this a little bit more, really bridging a cohesive preschool through grade 12 world language program, which will include, obviously, our students at the elementary level making their way up with many years of world language experience now. How exciting as they enter the middle school right around the corner. And I'm also thinking about potentially expanding course offerings in world language. Now though, our STEM priority areas, we do, as Dr. Patai mentioned before, we've recently really overhauled the elementary curriculum. We have some piloting going on in the middle school to address the standards for our students in the middle grades all the way up through K-8. We are also working at the elementary level on the full implementation of a balanced assessment system, which will provide us some more opportunity to really have leading indicators into these lagging, these are really examples again of lagging indicator scores. Continuing to think about how we leverage coaching to really support high quality instructional practices preschool through grade 8. And in science, again, science labs are open, so really working with our STEM educators as coaches of science instruction in our labs throughout the elementary level, as Mrs. Swanson talked about before, students in grades 6 through 12 really having the opportunity to finally engage in hands-on learning experiences. Once again, and thinking about authentic fieldwork experiences for our learners, even beyond our classrooms within the community through different partnerships. Mrs. Swanson is talking and dreaming with me and Dr. Kutaya about CTE and how to grow and expand our offerings and pathways in career and tech ed. This year we have a new course in the 6th grade, which I'm sure you're going to hear a lot about in our October 10th sharing with the board on the revised middle school schedule. That's something we're very enthusiastic, and our students are even more enthusiastic about. We have a revised computer science progression with a focus on in the beginning and middle school units. We have, we're planning ahead for a health sciences pathway, which you'll hear a little bit more about, I'm sure during even the budget process. That's a little spoiler alert. And we're really thinking about how to develop more work-based experiences for our students while they're with us, especially in high school. In fine arts and library media, there's been a tremendous amount of curriculum revision that has happened, especially in music. We'll be wrapping that up. They're finalizing the middle school curriculum documents in art, and they're really thinking about the art curriculum, again, to allow for more student voice and choice, especially in the middle grades, extending 6 through 12. Library media, we finally completed, even with the pandemic, the library media curriculum, which provides students with an opportunity to engage in more research in the elementary grades before they hit the secondary schools. And preschool through grade 12, student development and wellness, we're implementing, again, new health units. We're really thinking about how to integrate some of the things you've heard of before about that would speak to more of the dispositions and stamina of being a learner, decision making, focus, making good choices. In addition to those areas in health, PE, we have new health units in grades 4 and 5. The team has been so busy this past summer and year. The elementary PE curriculum is under review, as well as the secondary. And just last board meeting, you heard about some of the work in SEL. Again, it's been our practice as a school system, especially in the last 4 years, to be really thinking about the varied Milford measures. Some of those are standard measures that we talked about tonight through these standardized assessments. Others are less standard measures, but are certainly points of achievement and points of celebration and improvement for our school system, like the pathways, fine arts, the seal of biliteracy. One of the things that we're interested in is that we continue to think about Milford measures beyond a standardized test score, right? And thinking about the context of an assessment score, putting that kind of in its place in the bigger picture of our work, is again thinking more about other leading indicators. How can we hear from our students? So prior to looking at the lagging indicators, we understand a little bit more about what their learning experiences are like. So Dr. Patai and I are talking with the teaching and learning team around, for example, how we might use surveys and focus group opportunities to hear from our learners about their experiences while they're with us in Milford Public Schools, leading into some of these outputs. So it's important for us to ask kids questions, right? Like, if you face a problem when you're working toward an important goal, or you're stumped with something, how well can you keep working? I can't remember, one board member tonight asked about the stamina, right? When a student is in a performance task and it's not just an A, B, C, and D forced choice response. We want to know how kids are experiencing curriculum. So for example, how curious are you to learn more about the things that you're learning about in school, right? Because that will speak to engagement in learning, and that's a leading indicator into some of these and other lagging indicators that we look at. We also, and I mentioned this before, are really thinking about, as we think about the vision of the learner, we understand, again, I had some earlier comments about this, that knowledge and skills are maybe more transitory, right? Like, knowledge changes as technology develops, as we learn new things. We do know that college and career is focusing not only on the finite knowledge that our students have, but moreover on the dispositions that they'll bring to their study after grade 12 or their engagement within a workforce. So we're also thinking about beyond these measures and these standardized test scores, what are the specific knowledge, skills, and moreover dispositions that a Milford Public School student should be practicing and fostering so that not only they can demonstrate vision of the learner, but so that they're ready for that next step of college and career when they finish with us in Milford Public Schools. And so we would leave everybody with that tonight. That really is the driving force for, again, how we react to these scores and other points of achievement and progress for our students.